All India Radio presents Morning News. Good morning, I am Saira Mujtaba and with me is Sunil Verma. The headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his Bhutanese counterpart to launch RuPay Card Phase 2 in Bhutan today. India and European Union strongly condemn terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. India slams Pakistan for aiding and abetting cross-border terrorism. Home Ministry to convert 500 isolation beds at COVID care centres in Delhi's Chhatarpur area into beds with oxygen facility. Chhath festival being celebrated with traditional fervour and devotion today. And in cricket, ICC postpones 2022 Women's T20 World Cup till February 2023. As the nation fights the COVID-19 pandemic, we begin with a message of precaution to stay safe and protected by following these three simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. And now the news in detail. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his Bhutanese counterpart Lotei Tshering will jointly launch RuPay Card Phase 2 today. Our correspondent reports the event will be held virtually.
Mr. Modi and his Bhutanese counterpart have jointly launched Phase 1 of the project during the state visit of Prime Minister to Bhutan in August last year. The implementation of Phase 1 of RuPay cards in Bhutan has enabled visitors from India to access ATMs and point-of-sale POS terminals across Bhutan. Phase 2 will now allow Bhutanese card holders to access RuPay network in India. Both countries share a special partnership anchored in mutual understanding and respect, reinforced by a shared cultural heritage and strong people-to-people links. With Suparna Saikia's report, Tanvi Khurana, News Desk.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said there is a lot of potential of increasing economical exchanges between India and Luxembourg. Addressing the India-Luxembourg Virtual Summit last evening, Mr. Modi said steel, financial technology and digital domain are several sectors where both nations have good cooperation, but there are more possibilities in these sectors.
भारत लग्जमबर्ग पार्टनरशिप दोनों देशों के साथ साथ दोनों क्षेत्रों की रिकवरी के लिए उपयोगी हो सकती है। डेमोक्रेसी, रूल ऑफ लॉ और फ्रीडम जैसे साझा आदर्श हमारे संबंधों और आपसी सहयोग को मजबूती देते हैं। भारत और लग्जमबर्ग के बीच आर्थिक आदान प्रदान बढ़ाने का बहुत पोटेंशियल है। स्टील, फाइनेंशियल टेक्नोलॉजी, डिजिटल डोमेन जैसे क्षेत्रों में हमारे बीच अभी भी अच्छा सहयोग है, किंतु इसे और आगे ले जाने की अपार संभावना है।
Mr. Modi congratulated his Luxembourg counterpart Xavier Bettel's skillful leadership in this difficult time of the COVID pandemic. He expressed condolences on behalf of all Indians for the loss of lives due to COVID in Luxembourg. Speaking on the occasion, the Luxembourg Prime Minister welcomed the agreements in the area of space and finance. He said his country supported and welcomed India's election to UNSC for the term 2021-22.
We have good cooperation on bilateral level, but also on multilateral level. We are stronger when we work together. And so you can count on us, and we supported and welcomed India elections to the UN Security Council for the term 21-22, which is also, I think, a very important success.
Briefing the media virtually last evening, Sandeep Chakravarti, Joint Secretary, Europe West, External Affairs Ministry, said the meeting focused on constructive engagement on the bilateral relationship. It focused on the financial sector, fintech, green financing and on space applications. There was also a discussion on deepening business ties between the two countries. Global issues like climate change and terrorism were also discussed. Prime Minister Modi highlighted the challenge the global community faces from terrorism and the need to eradicate it in all its forms and manifestations. The Luxembourg Prime Minister conveyed the intention of Luxembourg to join the International Solar Alliance. Mr. Modi invited Luxembourg to join the coalition of disaster-resilient infrastructure. There was also a lot of discussion on the COVID situation, on vaccine development, and also the infrastructure for vaccine delivery.
The joint statement on the India-Luxembourg Virtual Summit said both leaders expressed satisfaction that companies from both India and Luxembourg were expanding their presence in each other's countries. In this context, they agreed to look at new opportunities for business cooperation. Both Prime Ministers welcomed the signing of a cooperation agreement between Invest India and Lux Innovation to support and develop mutual business cooperation between Indian and Luxembourg companies. The leaders called upon businesses to explore further opportunities for expanding the economic relationship. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said he was pleased to hold the India-Luxembourg summit. In a tweet, Mr. Modi said they agreed on the potential to further deepen and expand growing bilateral exchanges, especially in the economic realm. He welcomed Luxembourg joining the International Solar Alliance. Prime Minister Narendra Modi called upon the young talents to create robust cybersecurity solutions to protect our data and IT-based products. He laid emphasis on a sound data governance framework. Speaking after inaugurating the Bengaluru Tech Summit virtually yesterday, the Prime Minister assured IT, innovation and other tech industries of liberal policy framework.
With the rapid increase of tech use, data protection as well as cyber security become very, very important. Our youth can play a big role in devising robust cyber security solutions. These solutions can effectively vaccinate digital products against cyber attacks and viruses.
The 12th counter-terrorism dialogue between India and the European Union, EU, was held virtually yesterday. The dialogue was an opportunity to continue close cooperation and coordination on this important element of the India-EU strategic partnership. Both India and the EU resolved to support each other in the fight against terrorism. India and the EU strongly condemned terrorism in all its forms and manifestations, including the use of terrorist proxies for cross-border terrorism. India condemned the recent terror attacks in the member states of the European Union and expressed condolences to the families of the victims. The EU reiterated its condemnation of terrorist attacks in India, including the 26/11 Mumbai, Pathankot and Pulwama, and reiterated its support for the people and government of India in the fight against terrorism. India and the EU emphasized the need for strengthening international cooperation to combat terrorism in a comprehensive and sustained manner. They reaffirmed that it is crucial that perpetrators of violence and terrorism are brought to justice. The participants of the dialogue reviewed threats posed by UN-sanctioned terrorist entities and emphasized the need for concerted action against all terrorist networks. They also underlined the urgent need for all countries to take immediate, sustained and irreversible action to ensure that no territory under their control is used for terrorist attacks on other countries. India slammed Pakistan for aiding and abetting cross-border terrorism. Replying to a media query last evening, External Affairs Ministry spokesperson Anurag Srivastava said, Pakistani forces continue to engage in providing supporting cover fire to infiltrators despite repeated calls for restraint and adherence to the ceasefire understanding of 2003 for maintaining peace and tranquility.
Despite repeated calls for restraint and adherence to the ceasefire understanding of 2003 for maintaining peace and tranquility, Pakistani forces continue to engage in providing supporting cover fire to infiltrators. The incessant infiltration of terrorists and induction of weapons to fuel terror activities continues unabated.
The spokesperson pointed out that such activities are not possible without the support of Pakistan forces deployed along the LOC. The spokesperson said India also strongly protested Pakistan's continued support to cross-border terrorist infiltration into India. Replying to a query on Kartarpur Sahib Gurudwara, Mr. Srivastava said it has been decided that a Sikh Jatha from India will visit Janamasthan Gurudwara Nankana Sahib from 27th November to 1st December on the occasion of the 551st birth anniversary of Guru Nanak. The spokesperson added that in view of the COVID pandemic, all health-related protocols will be strictly followed and the size of the Jatha is likely to be reduced.
The Mumbai terror attack mastermind and Jamaat-ud-Dawa head Hafiz Saeed has been sentenced to 10-year imprisonment in an illegal funding case. According to reports, an anti-terrorism court in Pakistan announced him guilty on 2 terror charges and also ordered seizure of his properties. Saeed was arrested on July the 17th last year on charges of terror financing. He was sentenced to 11 years in jail in February this year. Hafiz Saeed is among one of the most wanted terrorists. The US has placed a bounty of $10 million on him. The Executive Director of International Energy Agency, Fatih Birol, has said that India has moved to the center stage of international energy affairs and is a role model for other major emerging economies. Speaking at the virtual launch of the Energy Technology Perspectives 2020, Mr. Birol praised the Indian government for its efforts in providing clean energy to millions by way of schemes like Ujjwala and Ujala. Delivering the keynote address, Environment Minister Prakash Javadekar said, "The International Energy Report is extremely important and has raised many valid issues." The minister highlighted that today, India is the only country in the G20 nations which is 2 degrees compliant in keeping with nationally determined contributions presented in Paris and has taken many decisive actions in fighting climate change. The Government of India, Meghalaya Government and the World Bank have signed a $120 million project to improve and modernize the transport sector of Meghalaya. This will help the state to harness its vast growth potential for high-value agriculture and tourism.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will attend the 15th G20 Leaders Summit at the invitation of the King of Saudi Arabia. The summit, being chaired by Saudi Arabia, will be held on Saturday and Sunday in a virtual format under the theme, Realizing the Opportunities of 21st Century for All. External Affairs Ministry spokesperson Anurag Srivastava said this will be the second G20 leaders meeting in 2020. The focus of the upcoming G20 summit will be on an inclusive, resilient and sustainable recovery from COVID-19. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will grace the 8th convocation of Pandit Deen Dayal Petroleum University tomorrow via video conferencing. About 2,600 students will be awarded degrees and diplomas. The Prime Minister will also lay the foundation stone of 45 megawatt production plant of monocrystalline solar photovoltaic panel and Centre of Excellence on Water Technology.
You are listening to the morning news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his Bhutanese counterpart to launch RuPay Card Phase 2 in Bhutan today. India and European Union strongly condemn terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. India slams Pakistan for aiding and abetting cross-border terrorism. Home Ministry to convert 500 isolation beds at COVID Care Centre in Delhi's Chhatarpur area into beds with oxygen facility. Chhath Festival being celebrated with traditional fervour and devotion today. And in cricket, ICC postpones 2022 Women's T20 World Cup till February 2023. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle at AIR News Alerts.
The Home Ministry has said that 500 isolation beds at COVID Care Centre at Chhatarpur in Delhi will be converted into beds with oxygen facility. The beds will be ready by this weekend. About 150 ICU beds have been added in the last 3 days in Delhi, and the current capacity of 3,652 ICU beds will be further ramped up. These measures are being implemented under directions of Home Minister Amit Shah to ramp up Delhi's medical infrastructure due to COVID-19 surge. The capacity of RT-PCR tests will be ramped up to 60,000 per day by the end of November. Train coaches with 800 beds at Shakur Basti railway station will become functional. Doctors and paramedics from Central Armed Police Forces will man these coaches. To ramp up Delhi's medical infrastructure, all 75 doctors and 251 paramedics from the Central Armed Police Forces have reported for duty. 10 multidisciplinary teams of the Home Ministry constituted to visit more than 100 private hospitals in Delhi for assessing bed utilization and testing capacity and to identify extra ICU beds have submitted reports. These reports are under consideration of the Directorate General of Health Services. The Home Ministry has advised Haryana and UP governments to hold a survey of private hospitals in their NCR districts on the lines of Delhi. The centre has deputed high-level central teams to Haryana, Rajasthan, Gujarat and Manipur to assist the states in strengthening containment, surveillance and testing. With the surge in the daily new cases and the spike in the daily fatalities in Delhi, the spillover effect is being observed in the NCR regions within the states of Haryana and Rajasthan, where the number of COVID-positive patients is on the rise.
The Delhi government has announced increasing the fine from 500 rupees to 2,000 rupees for not wearing masks in the national capital. Briefing media last evening, Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal said that arrangements are being made for availability of 1,413 ICU beds in the city for corona patients, out of which 663 beds are being provided in Delhi government's hospitals, and arrangements of 750 ICU beds will be made by the central government. The Chief Minister said celebration of Chhath is not banned, but entering of a large number of people in a pond or river is banned. In Tamil Nadu, 1,707 new COVID-19 cases were reported yesterday, including 471 in Chennai. The active caseload has come down to 13,907. More from our correspondent.
The current levels of COVID-19 active caseload in Tamil Nadu have gone back almost to the level of June 6, and its downward curve is being sustained for quite long. The new cases have also dipped yesterday, though only marginally as compared to the previous day. A remarkable feature being seen in the numbers is that in early June, the doubling time for the infections and mortalities were just about 2 weeks. Now it is more than 200 days. However, epidemiologists say these remain just an encouraging set of statistical data, adding the emergence of a new and dependable treatment regimen or vaccines or a combination of both can only allow one to be free from the concerns about the pandemic. Jai Singh, AER News, Chennai.
In Odisha, COVID-19 recovery has gone up to 3,02,796, while 1,303 patients recovered from the infection yesterday. 868 persons were found positive during the last 24 hours. A report.
Even as the intraday recovery continues to maintain its lead over new case discovery, the cumulative COVID-19 recovery is short of about 8,000 cases to catch up with the total case count. Meanwhile, in a welcome decision, the state government has designated a hospital in capital Bhubaneswar for the exclusive health care of doctors and COVID warriors infected with the virus. The dedicated hospital will have all measures of health care that include special, critical and intensive care. While the decision will act as a moral booster for the doctors and COVID warriors, the state government views it as a step forward against the virus, which is already in the back foot in the state as of now. Girish Chandra Das, AIR News, Bhubaneswar.
The Gujarat government has decided to impose a complete curfew during the weekend from 9 p.m. today in Ahmedabad. However, the night curfew will remain in force from Monday onwards until further orders. Our correspondent reports the decision has been taken to curb the rising number of COVID-19 cases in recent days.
The weekend curfew will remain in force from 9 p.m. today to 6 a.m. on Monday in Ahmedabad, while 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew will continue from Monday onwards till further notice. Essential services like medical stores and milk parlors will remain open during the curfew period. Government has also announced a series of steps following the recent spike in COVID-19 cases. 400 additional beds have been made available in Cancer Hospital and Kidney Hospital of Asarwa Civil Campus in Ahmedabad, while 400 additional beds have been made available at Sola Civil Hospital. Apart from these, 400 beds have been made available in private hospitals of Ahmedabad city. Yogesh Pandya, AIR News, Ahmedabad.
Maharashtra has recorded 5,535 new cases of COVID-19, taking its total caseload to 17,63,055. According to the state's Public Health Department, fatalities increased by 154, taking the death toll to 46,356. With 5,860 recoveries, the state's total recoveries now stand at 16,35,971. Meanwhile, the state government is slated to set up 3,000 more health and wellness centers across the state by December. Our correspondent has filed this report.
The Public Health Department of Maharashtra will soon appoint new bachelors of Ayurveda, medicine and surgery doctors to the new health and wellness centers. According to Dr. Vijay Kandewar, Joint Director, Directorate of Health Services, with the expansion, the state will have more than 9,000 health and wellness centers, an increase from the current 6,300 functional ones. He informed that each center will have a doctor, auxiliary nurse midwifery and multi-purpose health worker who will provide 12 essential services like ENT, maternal and child care, screening of non-communicable diseases, yoga and basic health checkup. Madhuri Pange, AIR News, Mumbai.
In Madhya Pradesh, more than 175,000 patients have recovered so far from corona. 887 patients were also discharged from the hospital in the past 24 hours. There are now 9,800 active cases in the state. A report.
After more than 30 employees of a jewelers got infected in Indore, now the administration is engaged in contact tracing of the customers who came in the contact in the last 2-3 days. The government has now instructed to impose the penalty strictly on at least 100 people daily who do not wear masks. Meanwhile, the numbers of COVID-19 cases in the state climbed up to around 1,88,000 after 1,363 new cases were reported in the past 24 hours. With 14 patients succumbing to the infection, the death toll rose to 3,129. Sanjeev Sharma, AIR News, Bhopal.
Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath has warned that any carelessness could prove costly as far as coronavirus is concerned. More from our correspondent.
Door-to-door active case surveillance campaign has been launched in Meerut district, which currently has the second highest number of active COVID patients in state, with an aim for a screening of 41 lakh residents of the rural and urban areas. Around 1,400 teams of health workers have been pressed into the campaign, which will continue till 27th December. Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath said in a review meeting that complete caution should be maintained, keeping in view of the Chhath festival. He instructed to ensure effective cleaning of the ghats during the Chhath. Sushil Chandra Tiwari, AIR News, Lucknow.
The COVID-19 recovery rate of the country has further improved to 93.58%. More than 83,83,000 people have recovered so far. The Health Ministry said the case fatality rate stood at 1.47% in the country, which is one of the lowest globally.
In Uttar Pradesh, 14 persons, including 6 children, died in a road accident in Manikpur area of Pratapgarh district last night. The accident occurred around midnight near Desraj Inara village on Prayagraj Lucknow highway when a four-wheeler returning from a wedding ceremony collided with a truck. Senior officials have reached the spot and the injured have been admitted to the hospital.
Chhath festival is being celebrated in different parts of the country with traditional fervour and religious devotion today. Devotees will offer prayers known as Sandhya Aragya to the sun this evening. The 4-day celebrations will culminate tomorrow morning with Pratah Arghya to the rising sun. In Bihar, devotees will pay their obeisance to the setting sun on the third day of Chhath Puja this evening. More from our correspondent.
Wide arrangements have been made across the Chhath Ghats to ensure safe, secure and peaceful Chhath Puja. Amid COVID-19 pandemic, markings have been made at several Chhath Ghats to maintain social distancing during gatherings. Use of face masks is mandatory at Chhath Ghats. Barricades have been put up across the state at Ghats to rule out the incidents of drowning. NDRF and SDRF personnel have been deployed at different banks of rivers in the state. The grandeur of the Chhath Puja reflects through its devotees, rising above religion and caste line. People of different sections of the society participate in this festival of great faith towards nature and sun. Dharmendra Kumar Rai, AIR News, Patna.
President Ramnath Kovind has greeted the people on the occasion of Chhath. In his message, the President asked people to resolve to preserve nature and environment and celebrate the festival keeping in mind the spread of COVID-19 epidemic. Information and Broadcasting Minister Prakash Javadekar has greeted people on the occasion of Chhath Puja.
Today is World Children's Day. The day offers each of us an inspirational entry point to advocate, promote and celebrate children's rights, translating into dialogues and actions that will build a better world for the children. In an exclusive interview with AIR News, representative in UNICEF India, Dr. Yasmin Ali Haq said, this year World Children's Day is focusing on climate change.
This year we're really focusing a lot on climate change because that is a key theme that young people across the world are talking about. They're talking about the risks, the action, and they are advocating with governments across the world to take action that is needed. So we have been working very closely with the Parliamentarians Group for Children. We are organizing a climate parliament with children on the 20th under the leadership of the Honorable Vice President, Shri Venkaiah Naidu. We're also expecting our Honorable Minister, Shriti Irani, to be present, and also 30 members of Parliament.
The International Cricket Council has postponed the South African edition of Women's T20 World Cup by 3 months to February 2023 to avoid a cluster of big-ticket events in 2022. In a statement, ICC said the tournament, which was scheduled in November 2022, will now be held from February 9 to 26, 2023.
Himachal Pradesh is experiencing cold wave conditions after the recent snowfall and rain. National capital Delhi's air quality is in the poor category today morning as the air quality index AQI was recorded at 291 at 7 a.m.
And now let's take a look at the weather forecast for today. The national capital is likely to experience mist with temperature varying between 11 and 25 degrees Celsius. Mumbai will observe partly cloudy sky and the temperature will vary between 25 and 34 degrees Celsius. Chennai will also have a partly cloudy sky. Kolkata is likely to have a partly cloudy sky as well. The city has observed minimum temperature of 22 degrees Celsius and will have maximum of 32 degrees Celsius. In Gilgit, the sky will be partly cloudy, becoming generally cloudy towards the afternoon or evening or night, with temperature hovering between 1 degree and 14 degrees Celsius. Muzaffarabad is likely to have a mainly clear sky. It might become partly cloudy towards the afternoon or evening. The temperature will move from 4 to 19 degrees Celsius.
And now an overview of today's newspapers. The papers have noticed the J&K encounter in which 4 Jaish terrorists were gunned down. The Tribune writes, terror plot foiled, 4 JEM terrorists killed in Jammu. The Asian Age writes, 4 Jaish militants heading for Kashmir Valley gunned down. Papers have also covered the sentencing of Hafiz Saeed in terror financing cases. The Pioneer reports, Pakistan court jails 2611 Butcher Saeed, while Hindustan Times writes, Saeed gets 10-year sentence in terror financing case. The alarming number of rising COVID cases has prompted stricter measures by the Delhi government. The Indian Express writes, cases up, Delhi reserves 80% private ICU beds, hikes fine to rupees 2,000 for no masks. The Hindu reports, High Court wraps Delhi government on rising COVID cases. And finally, some news to cheer. In the first ever board for granting permanent commission to women officers, the Asian Age writes 49% women officers to serve in the army.
And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. Prime Minister Modi and his Bhutanese counterpart to launch RuPay Card Phase 2 in Bhutan today. India and European Union strongly condemn terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. India slams Pakistan for aiding and abetting cross-border terrorism. Home Ministry to convert 500 isolation beds at COVID care centre in Delhi's Chhatarpur area into beds with oxygen facility. Chhath festival being celebrated with traditional fervour and devotion today. And in cricket, ICC postpones 2022 Women's T20 World Cup till February 2023. For details of these stories and more, log on to our website www.newsonair.com and News on AIR app. And with that, we end the morning news. Have a great day.